I just bought stocks on Macy's and I made $10,000 right this second. The stocks are amazing.
Amazing! I just made $10,000 from stocks with Coca-Cola. That's great. I love it.
No. What's happening?
What just happened?
Excuse me, sir, do you know what happened?
The stocks just crashed. Prices are on the floor. You guys made no profit.
What?
Yeah,
I lost all my money?
You guys lost all the money. Look.
What happened?
A bunch of people just invested in the stocks. You guys made your profit after all.
We made
Thank
a profit
God.
again?
Yep.
Woohoo!
The investors just retracted their money. You guys lost your profit all over again. And you can't stop it from somebody.
The Great Depression began after the stock market crash, but not mainly because of that crash. During the 1920s, trade in the US was booming, and GDP as well as consumption was on the rise. However, the main problem was that everything was being traded through credit. This proved to be unviable once economy uncertainty rose. Major problems that caused the Great Depression was America's flawed banking system. After the Federal Reserve's creation in 1913, most banks were small individual institutions that relied on their own resources. So when panic hit and everyone rushed to withdraw their money from the banks, most of these banks would collapse due to not having enough money to give. This was the cause in the early 1930s when a wave of banks began failing across the US due to a panic which caused everyone to withdraw their money at once. Banks ended up taking loans and selling their assets until they had nothing left. This led to deflation, which meant that businesses had to cut costs. Businesses usually did this by firing workers, which led to decrease in overall consumption, leading to a buildup in inventories and a drop in prices. Also, since businesses could not borrow money from banks to pay their employees, more and more businesses became bankrupt, leading to a lack of production of goods and services.
Up until 1932, Herbert Hoover was the President of the United States. While he didn't do enough to stop the Depression, he did attempt to fix the economy. He persuaded many industrialists to maintain the wage rates, promoted the farming industry, and dumped a lot of money into public works. Despite this major improvement to the economy, it still was not enough. He relied mostly on private businesses and local governments to stimulate the economy rather than allowing the federal government to take over. By 1932, Hoover created the Reconstruction Finance Corporation, which borrowed money to provide loans to banks, railroads, and agricultural corporations. However, it was too late. By 1932, 25% of the US workforce was unemployed. Government relief was provided, however, did not nearly cover for the missed wages of the US workers. People drove around the country in search of work, while others waited in lines in soup kitchens for food. Even the simplest things were really expensive. People needed buckets of money to buy even the simplest of things, including bread and other basic necessities.
This would all be solved, however, after Herbert Hoover lost the 1932 elections by a landslide to the person who would eventually save the US from the Great Depression.
After taking office in 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt created the New Deal, which was a set of federal programs that helped in job creation, investment in public works, and civic uplifts.
It created a multitude of agencies to provide jobs for millions of workers and paid wages that saved millions of families. It also recognized the rights of workers to organize unions. Hundreds of thousands of highways, bridges, hospitals, schools, theaters, libraries, city halls, homes, post offices, airports, and parks were all built across America. These investments helped underwrite post-war prosperity, and most of the New Deal infrastructure is still in use today. The New Deal touched every state, city, and town, improving the lives of ordinary people and reshaping the public sphere. New Dealers and the men and women who worked on New Deal programs believed they were not only serving their families and communities, but also building the new foundation for a great and caring society. In less than a decade, the New Deal changed the face of America and laid the foundation for success in World War II and the prosperity of the post-war era, the greatest and fairest epoch in American history. Most of all, the New Deal inspired a civic, cultural, and economic renaissance.